All right, Larry Krueger here at Levi's Stadium from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video as we recap what happened down here in Santa Clara on a Monday. And of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. And thanks to everybody who came out yesterday for the second annual Krug Show meet and greet at Pig and a Pickle in Corte Madera. We had a great time. Thanks to everybody. And check them out. They're in Corte Madera and in Emeryville. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Also, thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles for sponsoring this video. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California on the Monterey Peninsula. Call my friend Anthony Catania. He's down there at 831-521-5264. All right, let's talk about the bonus practice down here in Santa Clara. So what happened today in Santa Clara? Today was a big day. Christian McCaffrey returned to the practice field and was seen jogging back and forth and working out. And obviously, if there's no setbacks, there were no setbacks last week. If there are no setbacks this week, you can expect to see Christian McCaffrey Sunday against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at Levi's. Once again, if there's no setbacks, he could make his 2024 debut Sunday against the Bucs at Levi's Stadium. The Niners officially opened his practice window today, and he began to practice. Now, I didn't see him at what I would call full speed. To me, he seemed to be about 75-80% speed as far as his acceleration, but I don't think he wants to, go full bore right out of the chute. We'll see what he looks like later on in the week, and we'll see if he has any setbacks. If not, CMC could be back in the field Sunday against the Bucs. Now, who else was out there today? Jennings returned to practice. Jennings had a pretty painful, I think, hip injury, so to see him back at practice was huge. Jake Moody returned to practice, so maybe Moody can make his comeback against the Bucs. He, of course, has a badly sprained right ankle that almost snapped in half. And so that is something to see because Moody can kick it through the back of the end zone. That will help the Niners on special teams immensely. Also, the Niners opened the practice window today for big offensive lineman John Feliciano, the veteran offensive lineman. The Niners now have 21 days with both McCaffrey and Feliciano to activate them or put them on season-ending IR. So this is all this is. This is a 3-week window where these guys can practice, and at any point in the 3-week window, the Niners can activate them. If the 3-week window elapses and the Niners have opted not to activate them, they are automatically on season-ending IR and they cannot play anymore this year. So definitely something to watch. Feliciano's interesting. He's a good player. He can play guard. He can play center. He grades out very highly. He's a very, very smart, tough veteran offensive lineman. And it's really great to have him back because he's a guy that absolutely will almost guarantee that you're going to get better play at center and guard because if they don't play better, Feliciano's sitting right there and Forster can go right to Feliciano. Still no word on whether or not the NFL is going to fine Nick Bosa for wearing his MAGA hat on television the other night. The NFL is still investigating Bosa for a possible policy violation. Interestingly enough, though, Nick Bosa's jersey has become the NFL's #1 selling jersey at the NFL store. I'm laughing because it's just so crazy, this world that we're in where it's like the guy's going to potentially incur a fine for wearing a hat, and he knew that he shouldn't be wearing it, and yet now his jersey is selling at a record rate because he basically wore that hat, and now the people on the right are like, I want to own a Nick Bosa jersey. So there you go. That's the latest on Bosa. Still no word of whether or not the league is going to fine him or not. Niners Nation had 8 Niner trade targets as tomorrow is the NFL trade deadline at 1 p.m. Pacific. Now the Niners are getting back Christian McCaffrey, Jennings, Jake Moody, and John Feliciano. That all happened today. We'll see if they activate CMC and Feliciano. And Moody, we'll see how soon Moody can return. But then you also have Dre Greenlaw making a return. You have Talanoa Hufanga set to return. You have Yetur Gross-Matos set to return. And so maybe the Niners don't really need quite as much at the deadline as it appears they may. Maybe they don't need a a linebacker because they've got Greenlaw coming back. Maybe they don't feel like they need an offensive lineman because they've got Feliciano coming back. Maybe they don't feel like, they have to have a running back because they've got CMC coming back. Maybe they don't feel like they have to have a receiver because you got Jennings working his way back. So it's hard to know exactly what they're thinking going into the trade deadline, other than they're making calls, taking calls, and trying to improve their football team any way they can, as long as it's financially prudent and doesn't empty their cachet of draft picks. They don't want to trade away all their draft capital, and they definitely don't want to spend a lot of money, though they are $54 million under the cap, but they're rolling that over for Brock Purdy's contract. So here are the 8 names thrown out as potential trade targets by Niners Nation. Max Crosby, and I would just say don't throw that name out. Why? Because Mark Davis is never trading Max Crosby to the Niners. I mean, it's not about what they offer. It's not about anything realistic. Mark Davis hates the Niners. The last thing he wants to see them do is win a Super Bowl with Max Crosby. I mean, that's like he's waking up in the middle of the night, in flop sweat, just sitting there going, oh my God. And, other than maybe P.F. Chang's closing their doors, I don't know that there's anything that would make Mark Davis sweat more than Max Crosby winning a Super Bowl with the Niners. So that's not happening. The second name on the list is Hassan Reddick of the Jets. That's an interesting name. He's now represented by Drew Rosenhaus, and the Niners have a good relationship with Rosenhaus. Does he fit their wide 9? I don't know. Is he ready to play physically? I don't know. He hasn't played all year, so that's kind of an interesting name. Trey Hendrickson is I think, the best name out there as far as you. Trey Hendrickson has one of the great motors in the NFL. This guy just plays with his hair on fire always. I don't think I've ever seen that guy take a snap off. So if you could get a Trey Hendrickson away from the Bengals, I would trade a 3rd-round draft choice if I could get Trey Hendrickson. Heck, if I get him to throw in T. Higgins, I might even throw the Bengals more. But Trey Hendrickson would be a great name. I mean, he's demanded a trade earlier this year. He is an absolute monster. I mean, you put him opposite Nick Bosa, and the one thing you never have to worry about is you never have to worry about the motor. I mean, these guys play hard, really hard. There's other guys. Davin Godchaux from New England. He's 6'3", 330. He's a dominant run defender in the middle. The Niners need to be better against the run. They're going to have another date with Kyron Williams, another date with James Conner, another date with Kenneth Walker. They got a game coming up against Detroit. Detroit's got Montgomery and Gibbs. I mean, if you want to go anywhere, you better stop the run. Davin Godchaux from New England would help them stop the run. That name makes a lot of sense to me. Azeez Ojulari bursts off the edge, and he is truly dynamic. I think if you put him opposite Bosa, you'd want to sign this guy to a 3 or 4 year deal. Arden Key's on this list. Kendrick Bourne is on this list. And then Chase Young. Come on, you can't put Chase Young on this list. Chase Young didn't play hard for the Niners last year. The last thing they're going to do is trade for a guy who didn't play hard last year. I'm going to throw one more name that's not on their list, not on the Niners Nation list, but Kyle Duggar. And Diana Rossini threw this name out earlier this weekend that the Patriots may move Kyle Duggar. Kyle Duggar is the final piece to the Niners secondary that they lack. Darnell Savage would be a great one as well, either Duggar or Savage. Niners need a free safety. They need a safety that can cover down the field, intercept passes, hit, run, cover. They have 3 strong safeties. Mustafa is a strong safety. Hufanga, strong safety. Jair Brown has got high percentage, he's got, good production numbers as far as interceptions, but he's not a great cover guy down the field. He's more of a box safety. Strong safeties across the board. Kyle Duggar's a free safety. If you get Duggar, man, that would be a huge, huge get. He's in his prime. He can play the pass. He can play the run. He's super smart. He's been well coached by Belichick. Kyle Duggar and Davin Godchaux might be what the doctor ordered. I also kind of like the idea of maybe a linebacker, Devin Lloyd, in Jacksonville, along with Savage. I mean, Devin Lloyd and Savage from Jacksonville would be fantastic. Lloyd plays the run. The Niners, are you going to lean on Greenlaw to play the run? Or are you going to get somebody else? I mean, they also, Campbell's coming off his best game. Maybe they like Campbell. So that one's going to be interesting to watch. So there you go, right there. I mean, that's what we're on the eve of, is this NFL trade deadline, and I don't know what the Niners are going to be able to get done. Speed at wide receiver would be great. A power running back would be great. A defensive tackle who could plug the run would be fantastic. A little bit more edge rush would be fantastic. A linebacker who could really cover and defend the run and run well would be great. A true free safety would be, as I said, they lack that piece. They may need a true free safety. I mean, that might be the most pressing need they have, because they really don't have the Niners are like 26th or 27th in the NFL on passes across the middle, defending passes across the middle. They're struggling in the middle of the field because they don't have this player. They don't have that free safety. So that would be an area I'd be looking at for sure. One last note: how do the Niners usually fare in the month of November? Really, really well. The Niners are 9-1 in November since 2021. The Niners are 9-1 in the month of November, averaging 27.7 points per game and allowing only 13.3 points per game, with a plus 13 turnover margin. So the Niners get turnovers. They play better ball in November. They win over 70% of their games after the bye. They win 40% of their games before the bye under Shanahan. After the bye under Shanahan, they've won 70% of their games. So I do expect them to fire. This Buccaneers team is a really underrated football team, but the Niners should be able to have a lot of success against this Bucs defense. This Bucs defense has struggled despite the presence of guys like Elijah Cansey and you think of all the amazing talent that the Buccaneers have. I mean, Cansey, Vita Vea, the safety is monster. I mean, they just have a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball, but they haven't really played all that well. I keep thinking of, his name escapes me. It's Antoine Winfield Jr. Antoine Winfield Sr. was the Vikings corner. Antoine Winfield Jr. is the Bucs safety, and he's fantastic. So, I mean, you got Winfield Jr., you've still have Levante David, you got Vita Vea. I mean, you've got some good pieces, Elijah Cansey, on their defense, but their defensive numbers are not that great, and the Niners offense should thrive this weekend against the Buccaneers. The question is, can the Niners defense stop the Bucs with Bucky Irving, with Mayfield? There will be no Mike Evans. There will be no Chris Godwin, but the Bucs still roll in. Cade Otton is like a major threat this week. It's going to be a major, stop the tight end kind of a game for the 49ers. All right, that's going to do it for the update. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of The Krug Show. Thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles for sponsoring this video. Thanks to all of you guys for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.